You know, it's really hard at this point to not go to an event and have a conversation about, you could play buzzword bingo, right? Metaverse, NFTs, crypto, Web3. And so we thought we'd kick off the Future of E-commerce track and get those, the wheels turning in your minds again by inviting on stage Edwin Chong from IGK. So Edwin, hopefully you're here. No? Oh, that's a problem. Edwin has been leading the charge on this new frontier and is going to be sharing some of his strategies and thinking around this amazing new world with all of us. So take it away, Edwin. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you for that. All right, so I'm going to talk about how NFTs let brands pinpoint the right audiences for mutual wins and maximum value, right? So that's a mouthful. So why do we care about NFTs in the first place, aside from buzzword bingo, right? Do we care because Justin Bieber got one, or Eminem got one, or even Madonna, right? And even some of the biggest, stars in the sports world are getting into the game too, right? So it's not just musicians. You've got NFTs in Times Square. You've got NFTs in Vogue. You've got Gucci doing an interesting collaboration recently, right? You've got Nike buying an entire company to make NFTs. Adidas is getting into the game with Prada as well, right? You can even get a ticket to the Super Bowl with an NFT. And not to be outdone, you can go to Coachella with an NFT. On the consumer side, Pepsi's getting into the game, and of course, Budweiser has an NFT for you. And I think earlier in the day, you heard from someone from Samsung, right? So even Samsung, their investment arm is getting into NFTs. So I think one of the things that's interesting is not just that there's so many brands getting into NFTs and that's why they matter. I think it's because there's just so much attention being kind of paid to NFTs and it's capturing so many people's imagination right now. And yet only a very kind of small fraction of the overall population is actually participating in it. So I think it's really interesting to think about what's going to happen when that participation level rises, right? It's not so much that, and so right now this much activity is going on with only a small percentage of the population involved, and I think the potential there when the general population gets into it is really interesting. So what is an NFT, right? I think I was having a conversation at dinner last night with someone, and we were kind of talking about whether NFTs have any sort of value, right? And the Wall Street Journal is going to argue that NFTs are a pyramid scheme, right? Just buy something that has no value and try to sell it to the next sucker before they realize what's going on. And I think the NFT community at large is kind of aware of this perception that other people have of it, and of course they made a hoodie about it because that's what they do. So I'm not here to convince anyone or persuade anyone that NFTs have intrinsic value on their own, right? I think last night we were kind of talking about email, right? I'm not sure if email in and of itself has any sort of intrinsic value, but people use it for a lot of things that they find meaningful. And other people have built businesses on the back of email, right? You can think of like MailChimp or Klaviyo or Gmail, right? So I think there's potential there. So what really is an NFT? I think probably a lot of people in this room already have a decent understanding being in the tech world, right? But it's a non-fungible token, right? And that means it's not interchangeable, right? So like this Jackson Pollock is not the same as that other Jackson Pollock. And then, so it's a representation of, something, anything. And what it can be is kind of abstract, right? It could be a representation of ownership in something, right? Ownership in an artwork, membership in a club, interest, interest in property, like in a building, for example, right? Or it could represent, fandom of somebody, of a celebrity. And so I think the important thing to remember is, if you think about an NFT as membership in a club, then that JPEG that's always kind of linked to an NFT is really like your membership card, right? And if you think about, like a gym membership or something like that, right? You might have, when you go to the gym, you might show your card at the check-in desk or your QR code on your phone to get into the gym, right? But if you lose your card or if you forget your phone that day, they can always look you up in the system and you can still get in, right? So that card itself, just like that JPEG, is not the membership itself, right? It's just a representation. And again, it doesn't even have to be a JPEG these days, right? People are making NFTs of anything, right? Audio files, videos, anything. And of course, I think probably as some of you know, right? It doesn't even have to be a membership in a collection or a piece of a collection, right? There's one-of-one artworks. Of course, they're selling for millions of dollars as well. But I think the key things to remember about an NFT is the new kind of dynamic that it creates, right? You can sell it, like unlike a membership in the gym, you can't really sell your gym membership, but you can sell your NFT membership, right? And it can appreciate in value, right? And there's a market for it, right? So I think these kind of create an interesting dynamic, which is what at IGK we've been kind of exploring. So there's all sorts of potential use cases for NFTs, right? People have been using them for all sorts of things. You're raising money for charity, trading cards like Pokemon, of course, or NBA Top Shot. An interesting thing that Adidas did, where they had like a community co-creation thing where they invite people to take selfies, and the artist Zach Lieberman transformed them and assembled them into a larger image, which was then auctioned off, and anyone who participated in it got a piece of that sale for in perpetuity. And then again, you've got streetwear brands and other brands doing membership programs based on NFTs, and then of course you have Snoop everywhere in the metaverse, selling NFTs as access to virtual concerts. And I think the really important thing here to remember is that someone a lot smarter than me, Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, which probably the top startup accelerator, right? Had an interesting thing to say. Just NFTs can be used for so many different things, that you're inviting history to make a fool of you if you dismiss them, right? And even if most of the current uses of NFTs are bogus, he'd never dare say that all possible use cases are. So I think that's just something to keep in mind. It's still early days, and I think people are still exploring what they can do with NFTs, and that's maybe why sometimes it may look like they don't know exactly what they're doing, but I think there's a lot of people trying really hard to make them worth something. So I'm going to talk about power of NFTs for brands and how we use them at IGK. And we explored two different use cases so far, right? One was to supercharge customer relationships, and by that I mean we were trying to connect with our core audience, like our existing customer base, a little bit closer, and it's really a way to kind of motivate that customer base in new ways, because we created an NFT collection for them, and through that collection we're able to offer them additional perks and benefits like styling sessions, access to flash sales, early access to new products, and that sort of thing. So now they have something that gives them some extra value, right? But because it's an NFT and other people may see value in those privileges associated with it, right? And they may want to it may be worth something to them, right? So they're then able to they may even want to pay for it, right? And so that's where the NFT dynamic comes in. So these people who have one of these IGK NFTs, giving them various benefits, get something not just from IGK, but they potentially could get something from other people, right? And they're going to brag about that on social media, and they're going to do what they can to kind of try and make their NFT worth more, right? Because they can sell it, right? And the other thing that we did is kind of explore what I call next generation affinity marketing, right? It's kind of a way that let us connect to audiences that we felt had a close affinity with our brand and had overlapping interests, interests that aligned with our brand values and what we're trying to connect to people with. And using NFTs that way let us really kind of connect to them in a very specific way and very directly without having to have any sort of pre-established relationship. We didn't have to collect their email addresses. We didn't have to ask them to register or anything like that, but we were able to kind of connect directly because of NFTs, which I'll get into a little bit later on. So in that first case, supercharging customer relationships, towards the end of last year, we released a brand new kind of at-home hair color collection, right? So what we did to kind of tease this out and launch it into the market was create these little NFT characters based on the names of all the different color shades in this collection, right? So, the shades had playful names like Surf's Up, Stay Gold Baby, Movie Night, But First Coffee, and so on. So we just kind of created these characters to kind of embody those names, right? And then what we did is we teased it out to people. We had people, we did a scavenger hunt where people could find clues on social media and throughout different websites, even searching on Google and that sort of thing. So, for example,
All gold, everything for something special.
for this character, Stay Gold Baby, this influencer on TikTok was posting about gold, and at the end had like a call to action to drive to the end of the scavenger hunt, where if people followed that clue through, they found this NFT character, and then they could register to kind of like enter the sweeps to win it. So we kind of took a couple of lessons away from that, right? I think traditionally, I guess I shouldn't say traditionally because it's still really short history, but typically, with NFTs, people kind of promote them on crypto Twitter and in Discord groups, which makes it really hard for people who aren't familiar with it to really break into the space. So what we wanted to do was make it more available to our audience, right? We weren't trying to sell hair care to a hardcore NFT enthusiast audience, right? We were really just trying to get NFTs into the hands of more people and kind of introduce them to that space, right? So that's why we had people posting on TikTok, posting on Instagram and other kind of normal familiar channels. And also we wanted to kind of give it away for free, right? Because again, the value to us was those customer relationships. We weren't trying to make immediate revenue from the sale of an NFT. So that's why we weren't trying to like auction this off, because also I don't think anyone's really interested in paying $1 million for an IGK NFT right off the bat. So for us, it's giving them away for free, and then kind of imbuing them with perks over time to just kind of keep that value there. I mean, so basically, we were just trying to get NFTs into the hands of more people, right, and make it accessible and easy for people to participate, right? So that's why we kind of shared them on mainstream social media channels, gave them away for free, and tried to do it as fairly as possible by doing a sweepstakes, right? And so, it was a success. I think we were kind of the first hair care brand to release NFTs, and Glossy picked up on it and featured us as one of the 3 ways to launch an NFT in the beauty space, which was nice. And it really paid off as well, just kind of business-wise too, right? We saw 10 times the amount of registrations that we would normally see for this type of activity, 6 times the amount of engagement with this. We reached 3 times as many people. Our conversions were 1.3 times higher, and the color line turned out to be the #1 product to date. So I think all around, it was a fun project, but not only that, but it paid off in the business sense as well. So the other kind of avenue that we explored with NFTs is not just doing our own collection, but also collaborating with existing NFT collections as well, right? So this goes to the whole idea of affinity audience marketing, right? So we found this one NFT project called Crypto Chicks, which we felt had really kind of similar values to us, similar interests. It's a women-led, women-focused, very also like kind of fashion-focused NFT collection, where we saw people had been posting pictures of their Crypto Chicks NFT and comparing it with how well it looks to themselves, and kind of imagining that the scarf on their character came from Hermes or whatever, right? And the lipstick was from another brand. And so we thought like these guys are really or these people are really into kind of the whole style and fashion thing, and they might appreciate a style-oriented hair care brand, right? So we approached them. They were very receptive, and so we looked at like how we could kind of collaborate with them. So what we did was we ran a contest where people were kind of encouraged to do side-by-side comparisons of themselves with their Crypto Chick and kind of IGK version with their hair, right? and kind of to imagine that they had applied our hair dye to them and just like a little side by side with their crypto chick profile. And then on top of that, we wanted to kind of go beyond that and offer all of the crypto chicks holders something special, like a discount on basically all of our products at that time, right? So what we did was we built a Web3 integration on our website. So anyone with a crypto chicks NFT could go onto our website, connect with their NFT, and automatically get a discount. And so it looked a little bit like this. Someone would go onto our website. There was a little connect button on the bottom right. They would click it, connect their wallet, which holds their NFT, right? And so it would check to see that they held that crypto chicks NFT in their wallet. They would kind of approve that sort of transaction. Well, not transaction, but just approve that access. And then they would get notified that they're entitled to a discount. And then they would go shop normally, add the product to their cart, and then the discount would be automatically applied to their cart on checkout, and they didn't have to do anything, right? So there's no promo codes to copy and paste or get lost or get shared indiscriminately all over the web, right? So this was unique to them and ensured that only crypto chicks holders were able to get that discount, and it also made it a very seamless experience for them. So this got really great response, not only within the crypto chicks community, but kind of beyond it because of that Web3 ecom integration, right? So we thought that this community would be really well aligned with us, and it turns out that we were right. There was a lot of favorable feedback. People saying that IGK was a very crypto chicks brand. Someone even saying that they had just walked out of one of our salons in Soho, and was amazed to find out that we had partnered with crypto chicks. So definitely a success in that regard, and just broader kind of attention from people on Twitter noticing this sort of collaboration and this integration between NFTs and e-com. People pointing out here that this sort of integration is going to make discount codes obsolete, and this person kind of here on the left, I think, making a really astute observation that instead of having to spend money trying to find these audiences and targeting them and spending that money on ad revenue, we can just directly connect with an audience, and that value can then be passed directly onto the consumer rather than kind of like it being lost through a middleman. And so that's really the point here, right? It really lets us pinpoint specific communities. NFTs really let us pinpoint specific communities without trying to kind of approximate an audience or go through like a lookalike audience, right? So there's millions of, well, maybe there's thousands of NFT communities out there, right? And a lot of them are built around certain interests, right? Whether it's the fashion-oriented crypto chicks, the undead comics of dead fellas. There's a couple kind of like sports-oriented communities out there. So if you find one that kind of aligns with your brand, it's very easy to just then kind of connect directly to them rather than going through an ad platform. And then that money that you would have spent trying to target on an ad platform can just go straight to the consumer's pocket, right? So that gives you a much closer relationship, I think, with the consumer, because they're getting a lot more value from your brand. So I think this really creates a really powerful dynamic, right? And I think the mutual kind of benefits here is really interesting, right? Because as we kind of like add perks and privileges to to that collaboration, right? Then people's NFTs hold more value, right? And the value of their NFT goes up, and they're going to talk about it and raise awareness of it and make sure that everyone knows that they've got a more valuable NFT now, and kind of encourage more people to buy their NFT, right? So their NFT goes up, and by talking about the awareness and the visibility and the value of our brand also goes up, because it's kind of really amplifying the conversation around it. So I think this is a really healthy dynamic, I think, right? Because this kind of mutual success. And we've kind of taken a step further now. This crypto chicks partnership and collaboration is kind of continued recently. I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago was Metaverse Fashion Week, right? And so there were a lot of brands participating in this fashion week in the metaverse. You had Dolce & Gabbana doing a fashion show there. You had Tommy Hilfiger also participating. And so we continued our partnership with CryptoChicks to throw a party in Decentraland in the metaverse space, right? And we kind of, I don't know, like virtually styled their hair, right, in that space, which was fun. And yeah, I think it's really interesting to see where things go from here. Again, just a huge kind of response across Twitter and across social media on this, and this person kind of making the point that it can be commercially successful as well, right? Like just having these communities support you can turn into sales. Yeah, so.
Before I ask Edwin any questions, can we just give this man a massive round of applause? We're talking about building communities, and also thank you to all of you for fire alarm. We'll go back in. We want to hear Edwin speak. He's got some serious knowledge to share. So Edwin, I guess one question for you would be, part of the opportunity here, as you said, is really hyper-targeting, reaching your communities, bypassing the song and dance of advertising and indirect methods, and just really having a direct channel, right? Other than some of the great examples you shared from IGK, who's doing this well, and where do you see it going, right? There's a version of this where we have to stop pretending that we care about ads and we can actually just pay consumers for access to their mind share.
Right.
And what a concept, right? Madison Avenue has to find a different line of work. So would love to hear kind of your personal favorite example of that. Who's doing it well? Besides you, of course.
No. I think again, I think it always comes back to it's early. I think people are still exploring everything, right? But I think two, I think for one, I think Adidas is doing an interesting job, with it. I think that they're very open to kind of exploring what the options are there and what they can do, and trying to build tangible value, I would say, for their community.
Maybe just give an example.
Sure, yeah. So Adidas, they've done a couple of things, right? So they released like a Adidas Metaverse Pass, right? And so people could buy this pass with the understanding that it would entitle them to certain physical goods, which is an obvious kind of incentive, right? You would get a custom hoodie and tracksuit and whatnot, right? So that made some sort of obvious sense to people. They could kind of connect it to something real. And then again, I think earlier I was talking about how they were doing a co-creation thing with a digital artist, right? So I think that sort of involving the community and seeing how, trying to find new ways of interacting with the community, right, and building up that sort of rapport is very interesting, right? I'm not sure, I don't even know if they're sure, what it's going to turn into, right? But I think the fact that they're actively trying to engage their community in new ways in this space is very powerful. It's not just about hey, we made a digital photo of our product and we want to sell it to you for $100, right? So I think that's very encouraging to see.
Awesome, folks. It's a brave new world out there. Edwin is helping us navigate it and getting us back on track after a fire alarm. So another round of applause.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.